The other day I was on YouTube and one of those spiritual podcast ads came up for me before watching the actual video that I clicked on. And normally I skip these because they don't really interest me. They never really align with what I believe in or what I need to hear at the time. And also I just skip them because I want to watch the video that I actually clicked on. But this one in particular really interests me and really piqued my interest to the point where I stayed long after it said skip ad. And it was about why we self-sabotage and how to change our habits, or why we find it so difficult to change our habits. And this man was basically explaining it in a way that he said something along the lines of, we're only doing what we see ourselves capable of, or more to the point, what we see ourselves worthy of. So if we don't see ourselves worthy of a certain life or a certain thing that we're trying to call into our life, we won't make the necessary steps or changes that will allow us to call this thing into our life. I'm gonna say now that I don't really know the specifics of what he was saying, and I can't remember the podcast names. I'm really sorry about that. But the overall message and what he was saying really stuck with me and really made something in my brain click for some reason. I don't know why I didn't realise it before, because it sounds so obvious, and I've honestly had epiphanies like this before where I've realised something and it's all made sense. I guess for me, I have to really understand why I'm doing something in order to stop doing it, which is, I guess, the same for a lot of people. So I'm happy I stumbled across that podcast clip because it really put things into perspective for me. I've been hitting quite a few walls recently and feeling quite emotional, and even though I'm trying to see this as a win because I'm letting go of old things and I'm feeling what I need to feel, there is still a huge part of me that feels stuck in my old way of being. I still feel very confused and unsure and overwhelmed about where to go next and how to even get what I want. Because right now, to be totally honest with you, I'm just not feeling good about myself or my life, which happens and it's okay, but I really want to understand a little bit more about the way that I am functioning and why I'm functioning like this, and how to help myself feel a bit better so that I can move through life in a way that brings me a bit more happiness and a bit more peace. The other night I sat down with my journal and I wrote about this podcast clip and how it affected me and how it helped me work out why I was maybe stuck, or why I was constantly struggling with doing certain things or living in a certain way. And I've always had a problem with worthiness, ever since I've started self-reflecting and journaling and had what I guess some people would call a spiritual awakening. I've always known that I have an issue with feeling worthy, and even though I'm aware of this and have been for quite a few years now, and I've worked on it for quite a few years, it's something I always try and budge and get rid of or change, but it's just something that for some reason right now always lingers, which of course is so frustrating and annoying and just really hard to get through in some moments, and really just screws myself and my life over in some other moments, I won't lie. But hey, I think my main two beliefs around worthiness, or the main two that I thought were the only problems, was that I wasn't worthy of being seen, and I wasn't worthy of having a relationship or friends or new friendships, because I felt like I wasn't attractive enough or pretty enough to be seen. I know it sounds dumb, and I was embarrassed about my financial situation, so I didn't feel worthy enough to have a relationship or new friends or whatever. So those were the two main things that I thought and believed were the two root causes. So I obviously looked at them and reflected on them a lot and worked on changing them. It wasn't until I was journaling about this podcast that it suddenly occurred to me that actually it's so much deeper than that. And you may be thinking, but Moles, how can it go deeper? How can it possibly get even more depressing than that? I don't know, but apparently it can, and it did. But I realised that my worthiness was also linked to how I see myself, and I've had a lot of experiences that have made me feel so incapable and so stupid that I think now that I'm in my early 20s and I'm struggling to find a job and I'm not out here living my best life, it's all just come to a head, and I've been feeling a bit overwhelmed by what I consider to be my failure or my failures, quote. I guess you could say that, and this is going to sound so strange, but this is the only way that I can verbalize it. I don't feel worthy of my dream life, and I don't feel worthy of goodness because I feel like I failed, or I feel like a failure, and I feel embarrassed for myself, which is so wild because I'm literally 23. Like, I'm a baby. My life has just started. I'm finding my feet. I'm finding my way. I'm only ever going to be doing that because that's what life is all about. It's all about learning and finding a way. But in my mind, I'm like, well, you're obviously too dumb and too stupid to make your dream life happen and be happy. So are you really worthy of good things happening anyway if you're too stupid to figure out how to get them? I think there is a number of reasons why I feel or have this really nasty belief that I am stupid, and they're like pieces of gum that have all kind of throughout my life and my youth, I guess, have all stuck together and formed and collected this really sticky, gross, horrible ball of gum that I feel like right now I can't get rid of no matter how hard I try, because every time I peel a little layer off or I get a little bit of the gum off, there's still so many more to go. Firstly, I'm dyslexic, and I would never change that about myself because overall, when I get down to the core of it all, I really love the way my mind works. I have an amazing, wild imagination. I can build so many worlds and characters and ideas in my head, which is so amazing because I'm a writer. And also just amazing for problem solving in general, and I feel like the way I see things is from a very different perspective. It's from a very interesting way of working things out and looking at things from different angles. But I sometimes feel like that's not always appreciated or catered to, I guess, for lack of a better word, especially at school. I struggled a lot in school, especially in science and maths, because those were subjects I just didn't gel with. I appreciated them. I loved them for what they were, but I just couldn't do them myself. I also struggled in history a lot, and I really enjoyed history. I loved learning. I'm so curious about the past. But I was just so terrible at exams, and I just really struggled at the time to get my thoughts out onto the page and remember everything I needed to. I think when teachers look at bad grades, they might just assume that the kid is naughty or not trying their best or just disrespecting their class in some way. What made me so embarrassed when I was at school was that I was trying so hard and still kind of getting below average grades or still just passing. And I felt like I never really got the help I needed or the patience that I needed. I also think, and I just want to preface this by saying I'm very lucky to have had the education, and I'm thankful for school and the education that I've got. I love learning, and this is just my part of my experiences that I'm sharing with you. But I think that school is very one size fits all, or at least in my experiences, it's not really catered to different abilities or types of learning. You just sit and listen to a teacher, and then you're expected to remember it all and go at the same pace as everyone else. Especially as well when most of the kids in my class, at least, would mess around, like the smart, popular ones who were getting really good grades anyway, from what I can remember, just didn't care for school or for teachers, and they would mess around and be so distracting and honestly just, make it so much harder for me to understand whatever the fuck was going on. I wanted to learn. I was so curious. I still am. I wanted to do well in school. I wanted to understand, but I just couldn't. And the subjects that I was good at, like drama and film studies and health and social, that did make me feel good in some way and did make me feel confident and did make me feel like I could actually bring something to the table. But those subjects in general, there was just a lot less emphasis on those subjects. They weren't celebrated as much. What can you even do with that? So while I am so thankful for those subjects and for the confidence that they brought me, my memories of school is just a lot of anxiety and frustration and overwhelm. I just remember feeling so stupid and so utterly incapable and crying to my drama teacher every break time in year 11 because I really thought, like, deep down to my core that I was going to fail every one of my GCSEs. And even though I passed and actually got some really good grades and went on to do 2 degrees, those feelings of feeling small and stupid and incapable have stuck with me, I guess, unfortunately, and can sometimes affect my behaviours and my habits and my way of being, I suppose. I think that sometimes as well it's why I'm so quiet, or sometimes when I want to say something and I go to say something, I kind of stop myself last minute. I actually do hold myself back a lot from saying stuff because I don't want to look dumb or say something stupid. I've had a lot of instances in my life where I've been told that my opinion is wrong, or people have laughed at me or pulled a face, or just not really listened to what I had to say, which unfortunately has kind of reinforced that belief of feeling dumb. And, like, well, I'm stupid, so I should just keep quiet, and what have I got to say that is important and worthy of being said? Like, is there anything that is important and worthy of being said and worthy of people's time? I think that's also another aspect of my dyslexia, I guess, is like my reading, my pronouncing of words. I just can't pronounce things sometimes. I pronounce things wrong, or I even avoid saying certain words because I know I just can't say them properly, and I know people are a-holes and they make a big deal out of it, even though you know what I'm trying to say, and I know it doesn't matter, but again, I don't want that judgment from other people or for others to perceive me as stupid because she can't even read that word or say that word. There's even been situations where I've spelled things wrong in a birthday card and people have pointed it out, or, people have praised me for getting something right and getting a spelling right. And I know they don't mean it in a mean way, or they don't mean to be patronising, but I can't help but take it that way and get a little angry because I'm like, who cares? Like, you know what I meant. Or like, yeah, like, I'm so paranoid now I have to use spell check, like, to write a birthday card. But I guess that's just an issue I need to work through, I guess. I even was around my best friend's house the other weekend and she was introducing me to her friends, which was very kind of her, and we had a great time. But in the afternoon we were playing this game, and it was with these, like, you had little magnetic boards and you had like a bunch of words on magnets and you had prompts and you had to like write a description of the prompt using the little magnet words. And as soon as she pulled out the game, she was like, okay, this is like a word game. And then she looked at me and I laughed and we made like a joke about it. And I was like, okay, like, if I lose, I'm dyslexic, like, haha. Literally announcing to the room and trying to make it out as like a joke and being like, oh, like, damn it. But in my head, I was getting so in my head about this game and what they would think of me. Not because I cared about winning or losing, but because I just really didn't want to be perceived as stupid and therefore apparently unworthy of friends or, being listened to, which is so wild and crazy. And in the end, we had a really good time. I really enjoyed the game. Like, it wasn't that deep. Those girls were lovely, and I know they would never have judged me or thought any differently of me if I'd struggled anyway. But it was just kind of that knee-jerk reaction I had of almost like, oh no, I was doing so well, like pretending to be worthy of their time and pretending to be smart, and now they're going to find out that I'm actually really stupid, damn it. And I think what I struggle with is that it feels like in this world there's no space for mistakes, or there's no room for mess, which life is messy and life is all about making mistakes, and yet I feel like we're constantly being punished for those things, or people just have such a big reaction to those things and they make it like so much worse than it has to be. There have been so many instances with different people and different environments where I've been made to feel so wrong or naughty or bad or like I'm a terrible person for making a mistake or for accidentally making a mess. Like, when I was younger, my dad hates mess, and when we were little, obviously kids are gonna make mess, but he just has to like clean it up right there and then, and he would get really agitated and really annoyed, and it felt like the worst thing in the world. And it honestly heals a part of my inner child when I see those videos of those kids baking with their parents and the kid like spills something and there's like the parents are like, oh, it's fine, like, I'll just clean it up, and they react in such a calm way and they don't like freak the fuck out about a bit of juice or flour being spilled. I think maybe I just need to start gentle parenting myself when, I think I've done something wrong. I just need to not freak out so much. I also just think as well, like, everyone's so focused on being perfect, on making money, on things running smoothly, on growing businesses quickly and constantly making more and selling more or producing more and keeping up with everything. And I think, yes, nowadays, because things move so quickly and it is so competitive, you kind of maybe, the reality of being a business owner and running a business and making sure it does thrive is that you have to do those things. But I think the way mistakes are handled and messes are handled in general and in everyday life too, or just learning in general, the way we learn is just so wrong. And the way we judge others and judge ourselves for making mistakes or making a mess, not being able to learn or do something so perfectly while we're still learning and we haven't maybe done this ever before. The way we're so harsh on ourselves is awful, and it just makes the situation so much worse. It blows everything right out of proportion and actually ends up slowing things down anyway. I think life is all about learning, and learning is all about making mistakes. The way we're taught to do something and expected to just know it or get it perfectly right every time and first time, and being in such fast environments where perfection is always wanted and demanded and expected of us, it can be so overwhelming. And that's what overwhelms me as well, is just constantly being expected to get it right and get it perfect and get it out quickly. I guess all of my past experiences right now to do with that are just all coming up in a way that is very overwhelming to me. And quite frankly, for lack of a better word, I am feeling so paranoid about being put in a position where I'm just made to feel small and stupid and being spoken to like I'm a child and made to feel like I'm doing everything wrong. And, why am I even here if I'm not really adding anything good or important to the business, the group, whatever. And it honestly makes it so hard to create anything as well. Like I said, I'm a writer and I'm trying to work on like my novel and different articles for my blog and articles to send off to like different magazines and stuff. And it can be so hard to recreate because I'm stuck in this, like, up until recently, subconscious mindset of, well, can I even make anything that's worth making? Can I even make something that's worthy of taking up time? Can I even make something that's worthy of showing others and worth others' time? It makes me feel like all I have to say and give to the world just doesn't really matter. So why even try? I also kind of realised the other day that I'd been acting out of this freeze, or I think they call it functional freeze, just completely not wanting to acknowledge how I'm feeling about all of this, but also just not feeling worthy enough to create or put myself out there. I was procrastinating a lot for a few days because I just felt like what I want to do, I'll probably won't be able to execute it correctly or in the right way or in a good way. Then, I would tell myself that I was being lazy, and then I would feel ashamed, and then I would feel too ashamed and unworthy to then change because it's like, well, I don't deserve to create. And I wasn't isolating per se, like others might, just because I am also a little lonely right now, so whenever I do make plans with my friends, I always really look forward to it. But there is also some sort of negative thoughts or embarrassment that comes up when I see friends or even just like with family members, because I have this thought in the back of my mind that is like, why are they friends with me? What can I possibly be doing for them right now? What could I possibly be adding to their life? Like, are they pitying me? Do they think I'm dumb? Do they not enjoy hanging out with me? Am I being a bad friend by being stupid? And it honestly got quite bad recently. I think I found it hard to just being in any space where I was perceived. It was feeling so uncomfortable for me to just be around humans in general. I still do this thing where if I get a compliment or if someone thanks me for my work or like a contribution or, tells me like, wow, you look so confident there, or, thanks so much for your feedback, or thanks for what you're doing to help us out, there is still a part of me in my mind that goes, do they really mean it? Can they really mean it? Did I really look confident up there? Was my contribution really that helpful? It used to be little thoughts I am an overthinker and I do experience anxiety, so they'll come up, but they're not that bad. I can deal with them, whatever. But recently it just got really bad and they got really loud where I was like, does anyone ever mean any good thing that they say to me? Ever? And like I'm saying, just everything came up at once and I didn't really know what was happening. I just knew I felt like shit and I wasn't creating, but I wasn't aware that I was not creating, if that makes sense. I wasn't aware that I was actively avoiding certain things and actively dreading certain things and actively making an effort to convince those around me that I wasn't stupid, even though I kind of felt like it. Now I am aware. Like I said before, I wasn't really aware of what was going on. All these thoughts and feelings were coming up, but I was kind of pushing them away. So it was kind of just acting again in this like freeze response while my body was kind of just like overwhelmed. But yeah, now, even though it's been really sucky, I am thankful that I now realise what's going on and I can start to move out of it. I think the main root and cause of this is that recently I've just been so scared to be seen and be in an environment where I feel unappreciated or underappreciated, I guess, where I've been so scared to put myself in a place where I feel like I'm being disrespected or like I can't bring anything worthy to the table. But also just people pleaser tendencies coming out and believing that, well, if I do more and push myself beyond extremes, then somehow they'll start treating me like I am capable, even though that never works anyway. And I don't know, I've just been like reviewing and reflecting upon the past while trying to move forward and looking into like a brighter future, but then kind of thinking, well, before that happened, I thought that I was going to find myself in a good place, and then, I kind of felt a bit cheated and, ended up in a place where I felt small and unworthy and stupid, and now I've got myself out of that place, but I don't trust myself, or I don't trust life, I guess, to like bring me into this environment that I want, because I want to be in an environment where I feel respected. I want to feel like I'm an adult, and I want to feel like my work is making a positive difference and impact, and like my way of thinking and my perspectives on things are listened to and appreciated. I know that the key to attracting this is being in alignment to that, aligning my energy and living in a way that reflects these positive things back to me. I know I have to shift my energy and live in a way that supports this new goal and this new want or manifestation or whatever you want to call it. I know that if I treat myself better and start creating and just start allowing myself the grace not to get it absolutely perfect first time, and allow myself to make mistakes and allow myself to, be imperfect, then hopefully this will bring in more people and situations that will also do the same and allow me to feel seen and appreciated and respected. Okay, that was kind of sad, but also like I feel a bit lighter now, kind of, and I hope that helped make you realise some things maybe that was stuck in the unconscious noggin of yours. And yeah, I've been yapping for far too long now, so I'm gonna let you get on with your day, and I will talk soon for another one of these.